Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Mad Human. It's the show about advertising, marketing, and business in the age of AI. I am your host, Atanasio-Anthony Juarez, aka Rezi, or the Resonator if you're not into the whole brevity thing. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a gamer, a musician, guerrilla marketer, and admitted tech addict. This show is going to be a weekly show about AI and all of the headlines that come at us every week, which seems to be happening at a furious pace these days. Every Friday, biggest headlines, we'll do a deep dive into one of them or a guest interview on one of them, and then we'll wrap things up with a conclusion and your Friday high five. That's going to be consistent with the 5 ways to implement AI into your business or your personal life over the weekend. And that format is going to be something to watch, something to listen to, something that you can share, something to reflect on, and also something that you can use as a tool. So if you would be so kind and be a gem for us, like, subscribe, and share the Mad Human with all of your friends, fam, and maybe even your boss. I don't know. So today's top story, actually, we recorded an episode, the inaugural episode of Mad Human yesterday morning, and we missed out on probably the most poignant story that we could have that connects exactly what this show is meant to be about, which is keeping the human element alive in our creative process in advertising, marketing, and business. That story that dropped yesterday kind of threw a wrench in things. So we're coming back to the studio to record today, and hopefully we can get this out in mere minutes. And we're probably going to stream live as well in the future, so that we don't miss out on headlines like that. Right, John? Yeah, I think that's agreed. So today's story, and the one that I'm referencing, is of course the AI-generated ad that aired during the NBA Finals for the company Kalshi. The tagline was actually, "The world's gone mad, trade it." So that shows you how much of a connection there was with what we're trying to do here. Let's get into it a little bit. Basically, the story is a perfect example of why this show actually exists, right? During Game 3 of the NBA Finals, Kalshi aired their ad, which was completely unhinged. And really, my background of 20 plus years in marketing and advertising and content, this is the wildest thing that I have ever seen personally. It's brilliant, and it is definitely unhinged as they self-described it. This was a 100% AI-generated ad that took 2 days to produce using Google's VO3 AI. And if you paid attention at all to the Google event about 3 weeks ago, I/O, you're probably familiar with this tech already. The director that created the ad, he actually says that 95% was the cost reduction in this ad versus creating traditional ads, and he's been a director for 15 years. The company behind the ad, Kalshi, is a prediction market that lets you bet on basically anything. So whether the world is going to end and when, if aliens are going to show up, egg prices, political events, etc. The tagline, which we've already mentioned, "The world's gone mad, trade it," is really unique, and I think it stands out in its own light, despite the fact that this was something that was artificially created. What's odd to me about this is that it works twofold, right? We are seeing the democratization of content creation and where that future of advertising is going, but also, the idea that it takes away from the human process is kind of what I wanted to start this show about. And it has taken a good 6 months of ramp up for us to get to this place this Friday right now. So maybe the universe is working and conspiring to kind of push us out into the social media sphere. I've never been a YouTuber before, but I guess this is the way that you'd want to start with a banger story like this. So before we get into the entire analysis and my take on the ad itself, let's watch it together right now.
Indiana gonna win, baby!
We're in Florida asking people what they put their money on! I'm all in on OK OKC!
Indiana got that dog in them.
Will egg prices go up this month?
I think we'll hit $20. How many hurricanes do you think we'll have this year?
Kalshi!
Kalshi lets you legally trade on anything, anywhere in the U.S. OKC!
Indy! OKC!
All right, so what the hell did we just watch together? Really, like a technical breakdown, shot for shot, it's pretty good. And I don't think that if you were to put that in front of somebody even a year ago and tell them that it was completely AI generated, that they would have believed you. So pros and cons, right? Like this is a VO3 completely AI generated ad, right? But there was a lot of work and context that went into it. Like I said, the director has been doing commercials for 15 years. He said it took 300 to 400 approximate AI generations, and 15 usable clips were the ultimate product at the end of that. So he co-wrote it with Gemini.AI. It was a solo project, so one person, 2 days at home. It ran during the NBA Finals, and really it's a huge ad slot, right? So what are we seeing here, right? There's strategic brilliance involved, of course, like embracing the creative chaos, and that's shown in the ad, and I like that part. But the director's quote here, I think, says it all. Brands still will need to pay premium for taste. So his experience in the industry and directing ads and creating, that lended a healthy dose of the human element into this process. And while AI does amplify our creativity, it's proof positive that it doesn't replace it in this ad. The broader question, I think, is how do we stay human on this digital frontier? And that's really what this show is all about. So my concern about this ad, I think, because I'm net bullish on AI, it's slightly lower than probably most people. Right? I think there's a lot of creatives freaking out right now about losing their job. But I've always treated AI as a co-pilot and a co-conspirator, especially in my business. So I'm just, a tried and true optimist, I guess. And I'm always looking at the way that technology helps us and benefits us rather than the way that it hinders our progress. So democratized creativity is a good thing. Right? New opportunities for creatives who embrace AI. And we're going to talk about that actually in one of our follow-up headlines for this segment. But we wanted to spend some ample time on this because, man, it's incredible to see how far things have come just from a year ago when we had a freakishly obscure and strange Will Smith eating spaghetti video generation to a full-fledged AI-generated ad running in prime time on a highly valued ad slot. So, moving right along, this is what the Mad Human is all about, and I'm glad that this story came up and that we got back in the studio to record this because it kind of is the quintessential, story and connection between AI and what we are doing in business, small business, enterprise organizations, etc., to utilize AI as a tool. And use it for our creative process as part of it, but not to completely replace humans. So it's a mad world that we're living in, right? And staying authentically and beautifully human, I think, is radical. So other headlines that we're going to get into, there were other stories, even though this eclipsed the previous recording that we had and all those stories in it. But I do want to talk about OpenAI. This week they did announce that they reached $10 billion in revenue, which is pretty wild. It's an 82% growth over a matter of months. It's not just hype, right? Like at this point, if you're looking at it, the takeaway from any small business owner or any large enterprise organization is going to be, hey, this is not like NFTs or any other trend. This is actual like infrastructure now. So people like working in these spaces are going to have to adapt and change the way that they do work and the way that work gets done. And I'm all for efficiency. So if it helps, I think we should use it and we should explore what it can do for us instead of focusing so much on the negative and on how it can change things, right? I know change is scary, but for me, as an owner of an AI lab and incubator where we create custom agents for small businesses and enterprise organizations, I don't see that bias playing out very well. People that are often speaking out against these advancements in AI usually have some kind of interest of their own in doing so. And not to say that I'm not interested in growing my own business, but I do think that using these tools and understanding them is definitely more important and takes precedent over the naysayers. In our next headline, we're going to get right into that, actually. One of the biggest companies, arguably in history, Google, announced this week as well that they're going to pay people to quit over AI. Now, this kind of touches a nerve, I think, with a lot of people, but the idea that you need to align with AI or exit quietly is kind of scary, right? They didn't even describe it as layoffs, but actual buyouts for these people that have been with Google for, I don't know how many years, but this is not saying that they're bad at their job, right? I think the memo that was released is just a little bit of the future knocking at your door. And if you haven't listened to that in the past or in the recent past, I think it's time to. And I think it's time to start, really seeing how AI can help you advance your career. Because in 2025, not being able to work with AI or speak that language is definitely a career possibly ending choice. But it's still a choice. So next headline is MailChimp, right? And 2,000 AI product updates were released on Wednesday in their London meeting. And this is kind of crazy because if you boil that down, it's 2,000 updates over the course of 6 months, since December. That's 10 updates a day to not only their infrastructure, but what they're doing is they're creating a total industry transformation, right? It's going from someone clicking on your Facebook ad all the way through your funnel to becoming a recurring client. That's what MailChimp is focusing on with these advancements. So fast tech transformation is happening here. And the question isn't if you're ready, it's are we ready, right? We have to be ready for these types of changes, I think, in an industry agnostic sense. So that's the news for the week in AI. We've gone through several different headlines, and man, that Kalshi ad is still stuck in my brain. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it, and I want to give you the Friday high five here and a conclusion to the podcast so that we can kind of keep things moving through the weekend, and we'll see what happens next week, because this is kind of a wild ride that we're on with this technology. And I think those that adopt and innovate will dominate. Those that refuse are going to get left behind. And it's really not even a question anymore in my mind. So let's go over these Friday high five items, 5 things to start and or advance your AI journey this weekend. We do this in a format that is pretty easy. We're going to watch something, listen to something, share something, and we're going to reflect on something. And also we'll give you a tool to use. So first up, obviously, we just watched it here. Feel free to rewind this back. Is that still a phrase? Or do you just go back on YouTube? I think you just click it back, right? Whatever. Go back, watch the ad again, and really pay attention to some of those cuts, those transitions. The directorial idea behind it, I think, is still very prevalent in the ad. And it's just fun and crazy. It's like a GTA 6 ad. It's just nuts, to think that that's possible in 2 days with one person and the power of AI. Next up, let's listen to a couple of podcasts. Here are the recommendations I have for podcasts. I glean a lot of information from just listening to podcasts during the week. My main focus is always on AI podcasts. NLW, dude, big shout out to the AI Daily Brief. Great podcast. I think you guys could plug into that and really learn a lot. That is something that is usually up to the second, and NLW is just the man. So listen to that. for the tool this week, let's get into Google Gemini, right? VO3 is part of the Gemini or the Google suite of AI tools. So trying Google Gemini out, I know like a lot of people are used to ChatGPT and that interface and maybe Perplexity, Anthropic. There's a lot of options out there, but this week I think showed us like just how powerful, if 3 weeks ago I/O didn't, just how powerful the Google AI suite is becoming and already is. So try out Google Gemini and try using it to brainstorm something creative. Use it as an AI partner, right? That's the idea. It's not a search engine. That's kind of a misnomer. I think people are focusing on AI being the replacement for these things and these tools that we already have. It's something totally different. So use it as a co-pilot, use it as a research assistant, a marketing assistant. That's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door if you haven't already in this space. So lastly, I think let's reflect on something. If AI can do 50% of the job that you already do, if you're in the service industry or tech industry, or if you just plain pick up a phone and talk to people, think about not how it's going to take away something from you, but what you would do with 50% more of your time. What would you focus on? What to-dos, what items, how creative could you be? Because we're really rapidly approaching a space and time that imagination and creativity is going to be a currency. And for me, I find that phenomenally rewarding to have worked my entire marketing career up until this point where things are becoming so much easier and the idea people are now being empowered. The creatives are now being more empowered. So that's happening through a lot of different avenues, but primarily natural language, LLMs, visual tools like VO3, Midjourney, etc. In conclusion, I think maybe talk to somebody in the AI industry or focus on how to work with them and what they're doing, and try to glean some information and knowledge from them as you continue on your path into this wild and chaotic wilderness, which I'm happy to be your Sherpa and fellow traveler on. My final thought for the pod this week, our inaugural episode, I just like to thank everybody who has blessed me on my path into business. Like I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've failed a lot, but if you want to check out what we're doing right now, go to ATERNA.AI. I am the CEO and chief human founder of ATERNA.AI, where we build custom AI agents for small businesses, like I said, and enterprise organizations. Also, big shout out to MFG Studios here in Denver, Colorado. Love the Mile High City, and if you're around and you see me around, feel free to say hi. Let's chat AI, and yeah, you know what? Maybe Kalshi's right. The world has gone mad, but madness is where creativity and innovation actually happen. So the mission of the Mad Human is to figure out how we stay human through it all. And maybe the most valuable thing today is being authentically, truly, beautifully human. So that's your high five and your Mad Human episode, the first one ever. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, sharing, liking, all those social media things. I'm like dating myself, I think, because I started social media with like MySpace and Friendster. So at any rate, thank you again so much for your time. Truly, truly appreciate it. Hope you learned something. I know that I did. And we'll see you next week. And yeah, thank you this time for your time. Until next time. Cheers.